Okay, hey, Running Coalescence here, and right now let's talk about Intro to Running 101. So, the first thing, I'm going to have a series of discussions on things that should be done or I highly recommend doing if you are first starting to run. Now, I am not a trainer, I am not a coach, I am not a doctor, I am none of these things, but I have 29 years of experience around running. So I would say I know a few things. If you're looking into running, there's certain subjects that we should cover at the beginning that I wish I would have known to save years of time. Okay? So that's one thing that I'm going to try to do is to share that same knowledge upon you. So hopefully you can do it much faster than what I did. So today's video, we're going to be talking about shoes. First thing to know about shoes is I see people in regular casual show shoes that they wear that are stylish, and they try running these in the gym, on tracks. You are going to really hurt your feet. They are not designed to run in. It would be as bad as running in combat boots, which I've had to do in the Air Force. It does not feel good at all. You will not be able to go far. Okay? So that being said, you can just have like a regular tennis shoe. Okay? It's literally at the bottom end of running shoes, but the thing is, tennis shoes are good for just shock absorption, sports in general. Think of it as a multi-purpose shoe. If you're going to play soccer, if you're going to do football, if you're going to do basketball, you can pretty much wear them for all of those. So worst case scenario, at least wear tennis shoes. Okay? You don't have to have a specific fine-tuned running shoe. Okay? If you were going to go down that road, trainers. Trainers are exactly what they sound to be. They pretty much, there's a lot of, they still provide support, but yet you have the ability to feel what your feet are doing with the ground. And I guess the way to put it is they kind of awaken the nerves and the sensation in the foot. Because usually we're walking around in padded shoes. These are kind of turned off and numbed down, so we don't feel them as much. We aren't as aware of our spatial awareness. So trainers are really good at usually doing this, of just making you go, oh, this stuff is different. I'm going to be doing this activity and that activity. A more specialized shoe even yet would be more of a performance shoe. Well, they have less padding, but you need to usually, you get more power out of it. But more power usually means less padding. Okay, it's kind of a back and forth, because picture a fully inflated tire. It will grip the ground a lot better in acceleration versus a tire that's slightly deflated. It won't be gripping the ground as proactively responding. Okay, so that's the way to look at a performance shoe. So there's pros and cons. The last one is running spikes. So virtually no padding in the shoe. They're very, very light. And of course they have spikes on the bottom. There's two types of spikes. Okay. Track spikes usually have a rubber base on them. Okay. And cross-country spikes are usually, in my experience, I've seen them be more plastic. This is mainly because the track is usually made out of rubber, and then the cross-country runners, they're usually running more on gravel, dirt, things like that. So the plastic actually prevents rocks, sticks, and other things from jabbing up into the foot and really being quite painful. So when you're buying your first pair of shoes, well, we aren't buying two pairs, we're probably just buying one pair, so shoe. I recommend you go to a store. The second thing is try on many pairs and see what feels good. You do not want to have your toes being crushed on the top. You want them to be able to wiggle around a little bit, okay? we usually make a very, very bad habit of wearing shoes that are much too tight. And we get them tighter and tighter, and our toes slowly just start to hammer toe, to curve in. But they're supposed to be extended. But we keep on wearing our casual comfort, nice looking shoes, and our toes aren't getting used correct, and they just kind of get crushed in, crushed in, crushed in. So be aware of that. As you run, your toes will actually get stronger, the ligaments will stretch out, and you'll actually be able to stick them out correctly. So you want to be able to anchor your heel in the back, okay? And you still want to be able to wiggle your toes around. Tie the shoe when you do this, because even for me now, if I wear my shoes while they're not tied, they feel tighter. But then when my foot is actually pulled into the correct position, now my foot is in a slightly different alignment and I can wiggle my toes around a little bit differently. So go to the store, try on a pair, tie them, and what I even encourage even more is trot up and down the aisle. And honestly, I have never had a store owner or employee really question going, why are you doing that? Well, I'm looking into a pair of running shoes. I just got to see how they feel. Should I get the next pair up, the next pair down? Okay, if you like the way that one feels in a way, step up to the next pair up and next pair down. Feel which one feels better. Okay? So, that's the best way to kind of say is just try it out. Just don't go buy it, boom, done. No, try a few pairs and then find one that's in that size range just to make sure you have it anchored in. And long term, keep track of how your toes feel in that shoe. Keep in track how your ankle and other parts of your feet feel in that shoe. Maybe it's a good fit, maybe you need to change to a different shoe. But a lot of times, more than anything, in my experience, it's more the size rather than the shoe company or the shoe model itself. Another thing to keep in mind with shoes, as long as we're on it, are laces. So, granted, it's going to be hard to see the runner's knot on my shoes because they're black and they're dark. It's not going to be easy seeing it. So look online and you'll see exactly what I mean. And it's mainly you'll see the top loop that's on shoes. And see, I can barely even show you that. There's a top loop that's on shoes, and a lot of people don't know what that's for. It's used for the runner's knot. A good way to kind of imagine what it does is instead of having just one shoelace go over the top of the foot, now you're actually going to have that one plus two more. Okay? So you actually have three laces, it going over three times, and it's adding extra support to anchor the ankle. Pros and cons. It really matters on the shoe. Do you do the runner's knot? Because I literally have some shoes I will put the runner's knot on, and other ones I won't even think about it because it's too tight. So, and there is no universal formula pattern that the shoe companies follow. So sometimes that knot is higher, sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's wider, so it changes a lot. So some shoes I wear that runner's knot, some shoes I don't. Just one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind, you can get alternate laces. And specifically what I'm referring to are like bungee laces. Now they sound silly, I admit that. But pretty much you replace those instead of the shoelace itself. And what it allows is this. If you tie it and it's tighter down here and it's looser up here, eventually that tightness will pull the slack from this side and it will pull it up to kind of even out the tension from the top and the bottom. Okay? It's regular laces. If you pull them tight on one side, they'll usually stay unless you're doing a really, really long run. So it's like if you pull it tight here, it'll be loose up here. If it's tight up here and it's loose here, well then it's very seldom going to get loose up here. So bungee cords are good to kind of keep the overall tension of the shoe and how much it's squeezing around your foot more balanced. the best story that I can say about having these types of laces was years ago I was doing a 224-mile fundraiser for the Red Cross in Montana, from Great Falls, Montana to Billings, Montana, and I was about 5-6 days into it, and I was coming down a hill. My legs were hurting, okay, they were sore, but I was coming down this hill that was probably anywhere between 50 and 100 feet, and my feet were hurting on the top because the laces were being too tight. I was using standard laces. And when I came down that hill, the jabbing, and I'd call it jabbing because I was running with kind of not perfect form because 6 days of running, I was jabbing my toes into the front of my shoe harder. And that was putting a lot of tension on the top of my foot when I was going down this hill. Well, I made it maybe only 15, 20, 25 feet down this hill, and literally one leg went out and then the other leg went out. And it was because the tendons were being just now it's like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was in misery pain for the rest of the run. If I had some laces that were actually giving way, then that probably wouldn't have happened. But keep in mind, this was like 170 miles into a run. Now, most people aren't going to be doing that type of mileage. But, and also I didn't use bungee laces back in those days either. It was probably about a year later, 6 months later, that I started doing it. Because I was like, I wanted to remedy the problem. So, bungee laces. Oh, the other thing is, I do mine wrong. They say cut it and put this like lock thing on the top. I actually keep the laces there because then what I can do is I can pull it through, and now I can actually tie it like a standard shoe. So when I put on that clamp, you're relying on the locking device to hold the laces still. Well, as you wear them, that locking device kind of loses tension, or it wears off because of the laces, it loses its grip on them. So now what I do, and I love this even more, I don't cut them. I will lock it to make sure that it feels right left and right while I'm walking through the house, kind of, back and forth doing some warm-ups. And then I'll just shift this side, shift that side. Then when I think I found what I like, then I tie the lace with the locking device on. And then I also have to knot the loops because it will come out if I don't knot the loops, because it's not designed to have a standard shoelace above it. So a combination with the locking device and then doing a standard shoe tie, I very much like the control that I have of tension over the shoe much more. I mean, I can't even say how much more I like it. But again, not all shoes need that, because my trainers, they don't need to have that. They have standard laces. My tennis shoes, they have standard laces. But there's one other thing that's kind of weird. Okay? So, standard laces. Well, remember how I said about the shoe, sometimes if it's loose up here and you can have it tight up here, or it could be loose up here and then tight up here. This can be a problem with standard laces. Well, my tennis shoes are too resistant to the bungee shoelaces. So I have to do something else. And I have never seen anybody else do quite this way, but it's a damn cheap, easy way to do it. Keep the standard laces with the standard way that you'd have it on a shoe. But I have a second shoelace up here on the top. So this bottom section is only going to about here, so I actually have two zones with shoelaces. Okay? So I actually have a top zone and a bottom zone. Well, if a shoe feels too loose in the side, I can use this zone to tighten it a little bit more. And then I can use this one to kind of more take care of the upper zone across the ankle. People will say, well, then maybe you shouldn't run in normals. Maybe you should get narrows. It's like, my feet aren't narrows. They're just a little bit off of the distance. And I've done this for a while, and I have to admit, I do kind of like the feel that I have while I do this. So, just another thing to keep in mind is there's variations that you can do on the laces themselves to keep them going and make them feel like they are uh, still relaxed, not stressed, things like that. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to go. My computer went into standby mode on me. I got it set longer than 15 minutes. I'm so professional. There's funny thing. So we covered tennis shoes. We covered trainers. We covered performance shoes. Spikes. We covered standard laces. We covered a modification that I like to do with standard laces, and then we covered bungee laces. So that's kind of a range of what you can expect with shoes, how you can kind of modify your shoes to make them more fit your needs as you're running and learning how to run. Also, remember, try them on in the store, run up and down to see how they feel. Then once you find a pair that you like, then I'd say, hey, buy them online. But going into the store and actually trying on the pair is very important, I feel. So just give it a shot, see what it's like. And yeah, that's really all I got for you on this subject. So I'll have another 101 Runner's Guide, or 101, I don't know what I'm going to call this series, 101 Beginner Intro for Runners, or it's going to be over running logs. So, but I'm also going to have another one on just how to start in general, but I think I'm going to have the running log one first, because when you're starting all of your runs, you should record them. So even if it's your first one, if it's your 10th one, you should start recording it. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. So if you like the video, make sure that you subscribe. This whole thing is going to be supported by people like you. So if you like the content, share it with your friends, share it with your family, your teammates. I'm going to go over numerous subjects in not just beginner stuff. I'm going to get into some very complex training practices that some I haven't heard people even talk or write about for 180 years, but they're the foundations of running. Quite literally the foundations of running. And they're just not taught. So with a little bit of help, with your support, yeah, we can kind of create a conversation around these subjects. I'm gonna have a main Running Coalescence channel. I'm also going to go through comments. I'm going to find comments that if people ask questions, I'm going to have a channel called Running Coalescence Q&A where I give 10, 15, 30-second answers. And if any of those subjects are really, really good, well, then I'll just make a whole video on it. And then I'm also going to have Running Coalescence Live where I do interviews with new runners, experienced runners, coaches, anyone that's been in the running industry. It could be even in the shoe industry. It may even be people that set up for events. But if you are anyone that's possibly in the industry or looking into it, reach out, because who knows? It could be you. And yeah, that's really all that I got for you in this one. But give me a day or two and I'll get another video out on logs, and then probably after that I'll have another one on your first run. And we'll just take it one day at a time. Okay, take care.